Hey, it's Alexander. I'm back. It's been 3 weeks since I've started my fresh pressed cider, and let me show it to you real quick. So this is it right here, and as you can see, it has changed quite a bit in appearance. There's not very much floating at the top anymore, and it looks like a lot of the sediment has fallen to the bottom. Now this still is an active fermentation. As you can see, it is not very clear, and if I gave it a shake, you'd probably see quite a bit of bubbles up in this airlock at the top, indicating a very live fermentation. But today what we're going to do is rack this off into a second jug, and then we are going to add some preservatives to it to stop the fermentation. I'm also going to be cold crashing this overnight, and I'll explain that in a moment. But come tomorrow, I'll be bottling it up and giving it a taste. So stay tuned. So when you hear the term racking, what that means exactly is that you're pulling out your brew and putting it into another container, whether it's still fermenting or it's ready to be finalized and bottled. There's a lot of purpose in racking. In this case, what we're doing is just transferring this to another container so we can get rid of all the impurities that have sunk to the bottom of the fermenter. Now in a long-term fermentation, you can continue to rack. The yeast will replicate and continue to ferment. There are a lot of pluses to this because if there's too much yeast inside of too small of a container, there can be off flavors if the yeast is struggling and there's not enough sugar and nutrients to eat. So if you're fermenting something for a longer term than I am, racking and continuing to ferment is actually not a bad idea. But as of today, I am just racking this into a new container, and then I'm going to stop the fermentation. I'm really just doing this to help clear up the cider quite a bit. Now I am also used to brewing mead, so if I do say mead quite a bit instead of cider, forgive me, this is cider. I have made plenty of mead in the past. I've never made a cider, so hopefully don't slip up, but if I do, I'll throw this in the video and say sorry. So let me show you what I'm going to be using to transfer this into here. Now I have recently cleaned this. That's the reason why there's a little bit of condensation inside the tubes, but this is a siphon. So this is essentially a pump with a hose attached to it. You manually start the pump and then it'll pull through whatever brew into the siphon, through the tube and into the next container. Now there is a little choke on the bottom there, and you can remove it to clean it and everything, but it's meant to put a little bit of a distance between the bottom of the fermenter and the siphon, so you're not picking up all the dead yeast and deposits at the bottom of your fermenter. So first things first, I'm going to remove my airlock, like so, and I'm going to place it up higher than the container that I'm trying to transfer this brew into. So I'll set it right up here. Now I'll set my second container lower, so it'll be easy for the siphon to flow into this. So as you can see, I do have my cider up higher than the container that I'm trying to siphon it into. So now all I have to do is use the siphon to pull up and down into my new container. So let's go ahead and do it. Just to make it a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and put the hose down into the next container. And then I'm going to throw my siphon into the fermenter, very gently. Now that everything's set up, all I have to do is pull up on this pump and get the siphon started. So as you can see, now that I've got the siphon started, there is a steady flow of cider falling down into this new container. And the level of cider in the fermenter is slowly going down. This is really cool because you're just allowing gravity to do the work for you. So the whole reason why I'm trying to do this in the first place is to clear up the cider, because there's a lot of sediment at the bottom that I don't want to include in the bottled product. So I am siphoning off everything that is super clear and leaving behind all that sediment that has sank to the bottom. And I believe that is where I'm going to stop. Try to get the rest of that in there. All right, so we have successfully racked our cider. So now that we have successfully racked our cider, I'm going to add the airlock back to the new container. Since there is still active yeast inside this brew, there can be buildup of CO2, and you have to add the airlock back. If you were to put a cork on this or to put a lid on this, it will build up pressure. So just to play it safe, keep the airlock on there while you add your preservatives. Once you know it is completely stabilized, then you can go ahead and bottle it or put a cap on your container. And as you can see, all of that muck at the bottom of the old fermenter has been removed from this container. So what this is called right here is lees. This is dead yeast and deposits from whatever was in the original brew when you made it. It is edible and you can drink it, but it does put all flavors into your brew. So I recommend racking them out of your brews and trying to keep your brew as clear and clean as possible. In this case, I'm not getting super clear because this is a young cider and I'm probably going to be drinking this with friends around the holidays. So I'm not too worried about making it crystal clear, but I do want to avoid putting just straight yeast deposits directly into my bottles. So next up, I'm going to be adding all of my preservatives to this. You never really know what else got into your brew, so it's always good to use preservatives to kill everything, including the yeast. If you don't use preservatives, you can end up popping bottles. So if you cork your bottles, they can build up pressure on the inside from yeast that's continued to ferment and produce CO2. They can explode the bottles in the worst case scenario. So I highly recommend just using some preservatives and playing it safe. So the two preservatives that I'm going to be using today are potassium sorbate and potassium metabisulfite. Potassium sorbate is really good for preserving foods. You've probably seen potassium sorbate listed on plenty of different food products, but in brewing, it's good for halting the reproduction of yeast, but it does not kill the yeast. So if there's any yeast still alive in your brew and you only use potassium sorbate, that yeast that's alive will continue to eat sugar and produce alcohol, thus producing CO2 and building up pressure inside of your containers. So that is the whole reason why I have my second preservative, which is potassium metabisulfite. Potassium metabisulfite is used to completely kill the yeast and other microbes that might be floating around in your brews. It does release sulfites into your brew. Some people do have some sensitivities to sulfites. So if you're brewing something for somebody that potentially has that condition, ask them first. Most wines on the market do contain sulfites and they are legally bound to write that on their bottles. So if you've enjoyed a glass of wine recently, you've probably consumed sulfites without even knowing. But if you don't add both of these, make sure you get potassium metabisulfite. It is extremely important. So we're going to be adding 1 teaspoon's worth of potassium sorbate and roughly 1/20th of a teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite. You can dilute potassium metabisulfite and then use that dilution in your brew. I will just be eyeballing it and just adding it directly to the brew. So let's go ahead and add our preservatives. So I've got 1 teaspoon of potassium sorbate. I totally didn't just spill that all over the floor. Yeah. And for the next preservative, I am going to be using gloves. It does have a corrosive sticker on there. So if you're going to be handling this stuff, make sure you have some protection. We've got roughly 1/20th of a teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite. And I do have to say that this cider does smell absolutely delicious. I'm not too sure if I'm going to have to back sweeten this or not, but if I do, I will probably end up using honey just because it's a little bit easier than putting more juice into this. So now that I've added my preservatives, I'm going to add my airlock back onto here. Then I'm going to give this a good shake to make sure it all mixes in. And as you can see, this yeast is still very active as it is continuing to release CO2 into the airlock. So now for the next step, I'm going to be resealing this and then putting it into the fridge to let it cold crash. Now the whole reason for cold crashing is if there's any solids or yeast, they will condense and fall to the bottom so that when I'm bottling tomorrow, it'll be a lot clearer when I'm pulling out with that same siphon. Now the refrigerator that I'm using does not have enough space to put the airlock back on the top of this fermenter, so I will just be putting the cap back on here. But I do highly recommend keeping the airlock on this because it can continue to release CO2. But in this case, I'm just going to chance it. I'll get up early tomorrow and I will unscrew this and release any CO2 and then close it back, just to play it safe. So to cold crash, I'm going to be throwing this whole gallon, a little bit less than a gallon's worth, of cider into my refrigerator here at the bar. I've cleared out a little bit of space there. So I am just gonna throw this right in there. And as you can see, I don't have enough room for that airlock. That airlock would just stand a little too tall for it to fit inside this refrigerator. But I will come back tomorrow. All right, so it's the next day and I've come back to look at my cider and it's just not quite as clear as I want it to be. So I'm actually gonna let this sit for a few days and then we will strain it out and bottle it.